No, I don't even, and honestly, I don't know. My weight is kind of stabilized. I've gotten a little bit older. I may be able to cut down to 85 again. So I'm going to have to really take a look at, kind of the landscape in a year. And like I said, maybe I won't even be wanting to go back to the UFC. Maybe I'll have opportunities in wrestling that'll keep me there, which I'm, hopefully looking forward to that happening. So.
What's great about you and the fact that you were in the UFC and obviously had some big-time opponents like Chris Weidman, obviously a huge, huge star there, but there's something about a guy like you that just is legit. Like there's an MMA fighter, they have a certain style, they have a certain look, they have a certain aura about them, but that legitness, it helps. Have you found that helps you in the pro wrestling world as far as crowd reactions and things like that?
Yeah, some crowds know what they're getting into. Some crowds are there just to see professional wrestling. So, I kind of have to read the crowd a little bit and see what I can get away with as far as the submission game and that kind of style goes, and then adjust from there. So it really depends on the crowd. Some places love it, some places hate it.
Now we know some pro wrestlers from doing some interviews and the other stuff that we do for our show for quite a while, but I've noticed that a couple of guys mentioned you, and they said that they were pretty impressed. And I've watched some matches, and I've seen you throw in some power bombs and just do some crazy submissions that like you wouldn't expect, and you just see some things that you haven't quite seen before. Did you expect to be able to be basically this good this quickly?
I'm not nearly where I want to be yet. Let me just put it that way. I've done nothing up to this point.
You have definitely impressed some people. I'll tell you that. And definitely impressed us. We were kind of surprised. Like, you never quite know how serious a guy will be, and how ready they are. And you seem to be ahead of the game. Is it because maybe you're more of a natural because you were a wrestling fan?
Oh, I think you got to take into account that the fact that I had wrestled before, even though it was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I'm a fan, but I don't know. It's something that comes natural. I didn't wrestle for a long time, and I was able to get back into it and pick it up relatively quickly. But like I said, I've done nothing. I have not accomplished 1/10 of the amount of stuff that I had wanted to 6 months back into this. So, I'm glad that some people are impressed, but I'm not impressed with like GSP would say, I am not impressed with my own performance.
Are you happy to see him returning and getting an immediate title shot?
I don't even care. It's for money. So do whatever you want. Let's see whatever fights the public wants to see at this point. So.
I just got to ask this because obviously WWE is the big game in town. They're the big wrestling organization. Now, did you have a tryout for them like many, many moons ago? Is that true that you actually did have a tryout?
Yeah, I did. However, it didn't go the way that, obviously I had hoped. And that's kind of what drove me into the mixed martial arts world, or kind of back into MMA, was I wasn't happy with the way that the tryout went. I wasn't happy with the feedback that I had gotten. And I kind of thought, I want to get into something where I can kind of control my own destiny a little bit more, not realizing that the UFC isn't really like that.
Very, very true. It's more of a political game than you think. But as I wind it down here, I just was curious, was there any interest now in going to WWE? Would there be any interest now that you kind of, you're getting better at this, getting the hang of that?
The schedule is not really very appealing. In the long run, even sometimes, when you factor in the money and the costs associated with traveling all year, sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And, I'm at a point in my life where I can make some money doing multiple things. I can, I can teach mixed martial arts. I can teach jiu-jitsu. I can, be involved with stuff like that, and also fight and wrestle at the same time, and, be involved with other things. So I don't need to be on the road all year. I don't desire that lifestyle. So I'm kind of happy, essentially, with being in the independent scene. But, like I said, I'm not happy with, where I'm at right now.
What about if you got like a nice little Brock Lesnar-like schedule where you show up, you beat up a few people, you leave, you come back in a couple months?
Oh, that'd be phenomenal. But there's one Brock Lesnar. There's not a ton of them, and I'm like, the size of one of those organs that he got removed from diverticulitis. So I don't think I'm getting that schedule anytime soon. It's kind of like the schedule I have in AIW. It's like 10 shows a year. I show up, I fight some people, and then I go home. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's quite the schedule to have. You impressed with a guy like Lesnar that was able to do wrestling, win the heavyweight championship of UFC, and then kind of come back to wrestling and be a phenomenal card draw?
Yeah, but his style is something that it's built perfectly for these super fights. So for him to come in, he does an 8-minute match. It's a bunch of big moves. People aren't expecting him to go out and work like a different kind of style. So it's absolutely, phenomenal for him. And it's too much off of his body in the long run. So I think that, that helps. I'm sure when he got back into training for MMA for the fight against Mark Hunt, he felt like $1 million compared to how he had felt in the past coming off of long MMA training camps. So